With football season well underway, we're all hoping that Auburn recruiting will also pick up its season a little bit. Well, we finally do have that, albeit with the loss of another commit, which we'll address a little bit in this video. But mainly, we're here to celebrate and talk about a brand new commitment to the Auburn Tigers at the wide receiver position. We'll be talking about who that is and what it means for Auburn in this video. Before you do that, I always want to encourage you to smash this like button if you do enjoy this type of content. And I always want to thank members of our booster club like Elizabeth Owen, who help produce videos like this. Brand new commitment for the Tigers, wide receiver, offensive recruit. It's another great addition to the Tigers 2023 class. Now let's go ahead and address the elephant in the room. Yes, the Tigers did lose a wide receiver commitment the day before this. Standout Carmelo Inglis from Central Phoenix City, who everybody was really excited about, and they should have been, has decided to decommit from the Tigers. And there's some implications for this commitment that I think we'll discuss a little bit in this video, but that's not what our focus should be. It should be about celebrating Adam Hopkins' brand new wide receiver commit for the Tigers, and I hope that you can find that time to celebrate that and not lament so much about the loss of another one, because this is just the natural process of things. On Thursday, September 15th, we finally got that commit during football season we have been waiting for. It's been several weeks, really the end of August, since we got our last one with Adam Hopkins finally committing here. The Tigers beat out several schools in powerhouse states and in the SEC, most notably Texas A&M, Arkansas, Florida State, Kansas State were some of his finalists that the Auburn Tigers got the nod over. He's considered a four-star wide receiver and the #1 by most sites wide receiver in the state of Georgia. So you can tell that you're getting a top recruit there, especially when it comes from the state of Georgia. He decided to commit to the Tigers right after a visit during the San Jose State weekend and was, I think, even quoted saying that that's really being there in that element is what sold him on this. So that's why this is a big thing for this Penn State game coming up for us all to show out who are going to be there. Let's talk a little bit about the Thomas Central High School commit that we just got. Just some numbers, measurables for you to kind of get your head around a little bit. And as always, remember, every site is different. They'll have different measurables to talk about height, weight, all that kind of stuff. And especially stats too that we reference, it can be a little bit of varying that. So we're trying to give you the best overall approximate to talk about these things. In terms of measurables, height, weight, he's about 5'11", 6 feet overall, somewhere in that range, and about 170 to 175 pounds. Now, when you kind of try to get your head around what that means in terms of relating it to other commits, DeQuavia's story is the most recent one with Carmelo Inglis now leaving. If you want to kind of put in reference, he's slightly smaller than both of those guys, but really just it's a weight thing. And most of those things are not necessarily corrected because there's nothing wrong necessarily with weight, but everybody gets bigger, taller, faster, stronger as they continue to grow themselves. But they get into these college programs, so I expect that to continue to improve for him. Now, much like many high school players, they play two different ways, and the same is the case here for Adam Hopkins. He plays defensive back as well, as long as primarily being recruited as a wide receiver by the Auburn Tigers. So thankfully, we actually have in-season high school football going on right now, so we can talk about the stats in this video that are actually happening right now. So far, approximately 193 total or all-purpose yards that Adam Hopkins has acquired thus far, and that includes 3 offensive touchdowns. If you want to take a step back to last year, he's got about 10 to 12 pass breakups. He's got 2 interceptions that he's run back for touchdown, but he also scored 2 offensive touchdowns as well that we were able to find somewhere online when you look at stats for him last year. Now, this is the part of the video where we talk about what it means for Auburn, and this is probably the more crucial thing because obviously we want to know as Auburn fans what this means for having this guy be a part of the program. First, we're going to talk about the present, and that's a lot of the numbers type of game, what it means for the recruiting class right now. So this is the part where we have to acknowledge Carmelo Inglis because of the fact that how it kind of changes what number recruit this is. So technically, this is the 9th recruit that the Tigers have had in this class, but it is really the 8th now with the exit of English. It's also technically the 4th overall offensive recruit. Could have been the 5th, but now also if you want to extrapolate that one more time, it could be the 3rd wide receiver commit, but it's also now the 2nd wide receiver commit. So I know that's kind of confusing, but just remember that with all these numbers, you got to make sure that you account for the ones that have decommitted too. Also, some notes for what it means for the current class and how the overall recruiting process is going this cycle. So if you look at positions in Auburn Tigers taking the top at certain positions, in particular pipeline states, this means that the Tigers have also now taken the top wide receiver from Georgia, But if you want to look at it even further, they've taken the top running back from their home state of Alabama. That's a really good thing, especially for highly sought after recruits in both of those positions in both of these pipeline states for Auburn. And in terms of what it means in terms of rankings and numbers and things like that, because I know a lot of you care about that, although I stress not to put so much emphasis on this, it will mean that overall the Tigers kind of took a downgrade. Now, we got a 4-star for a 4-star, but by most standards, he's ranked a little bit lower, and he is now our top recruit, whereas Carmelo English was the top recruit. So that means we'll take a slight step back. But again, don't worry so much about those things. That's just there for your information. Now, what it means for the future, and this is what really gets me excited, because this is all just speculation, and we get to kind of play the what-if game of what it means for us in the future, having him as part of this team. Obviously, if he follows through with his commitment, unlike some people have, and we have him as part of the team next year. So when you look at the wide receiver room, you're kind of asking the question, will this guy have an opportunity early on to play? And you got to start asking the question, well, who's leaving? We talked about this in previous videos for wide receivers, even with DeQuavius Story. We talked about that Shed Jackson right now is the only one that is scheduled to leave, that being him taking his 5th year overall. Now, there will be other wide receivers that I'm sure will leave the team. It's just the thing that happens, you know, defensive backs, wide receivers, there's lots of recruits and members of the team that are in those positions, so they often have the most turnover. We've already had J.J. Evans leave the team and go into the transfer portal, so that's a sign that maybe some room and some playing time might open up if a trend like that continues throughout the season and in the postseason once we get to that point. But my stress for you is always to expect these new guys, unless they are just absolutely needed at a position. I mean, we got nobody else to redshirt, or at minimum only play those 4 games that they're allowed to without burning a redshirt, just so you're not disappointed if you don't see your favorite recruit out there early. And looking into the future and what this means for the recruiting cycle going forward, it shows you that the Auburn Tigers and Coach Bryan Harsin are making a concerted effort not just to take care of in-state talent, even though they just lost one, but also to continue to nurture and build those pipeline states, Georgia and Florida. This is obviously a Georgia commit, and it's basically like a 1A and 1B when you talk about Alabama and Georgia in terms of importance of states. Yes, Alabama is the most important, but Georgia's basically right there, especially with the amount of talent they have available, and it shows you that they're continuing to do a good job, and I expect that to continue through the rest of the cycle. And lastly, in terms of future discussions about what this means for Auburn, is the wide receiver room done? And the answer is we don't know, right? You look at this now, and we talked about this a lot after the commitment of DeQuavius Story when you compared him and Carmelo English, and you could kind of see that that's 2 guys anchoring two positions on opposite sides of each other of the field. If you look at it in that manner, that maybe they got enough, especially with the wide receiver room that we already have. I don't know, though. I mean, there's always an opportunity. If there's somebody that wants to come to Auburn and we think they're going to be able to help us, you definitely take them. The other question is, though, Carmelo English obviously, well, I don't think obviously, I'm speculating, left because he felt like the room was getting a little too full for what he'd like to be a part of this cycle. I can't fault him for that. I understand. I don't like it, but I understand. So that may play into some of the other wide receiver commits out there that might come to Auburn. My guess is late we'll probably have at least one more, because it just feels like you typically get that in each recruiting cycle, but we'll see what happens and see how it shakes out the rest of the year. So that's all my thoughts on the brand new commit, Adam Hopkins, for the Auburn Tigers 2023 class. I want to know from you, what do you think about the new guy? How much are you excited about him? Do you anticipate him to play early? Let me know down in the comments section below. On your way out, please do make sure you smash the like button if you enjoyed this content, but also subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything like this. Uploaded videos like this, live streams. You don't want to miss anything that we have going on here if you're an Auburn fan or just a college athletics fan in general. If you want ways to help support our content, listed in the description are some links you can check out. You can hit the join button here to be a channel member, or head over to patreon.com/E2C Network to join the Booster Club. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and we appreciate you stopping into the E2C Network, where we share the whole Auburn experience. War Eagle.